Welcome, ladies, to the BWA online roundtable with Lauree Arnold. We're going to be discussing the ways to overcome the imposter today. It was such a great topic, and so thank you, Lauree, for absolutely coming up with this idea to have an online interactive chat about this. It's something that's quite common, not just with women, but quite common with men too. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'd like to welcome you. I'm the National Director and the founder of Business Women Australia. We're a national collective of female leaders across states, across professions and across industries. And I'd like to kick off our fabulous interactive webinar today with an acknowledgement of the country in which we're meeting. We're coming from all over this amazing, vast place that we call home. And I'm actually on the land of the Whadjuk Noongar people in Whadjuk country. It's been lived, danced and celebrated on for over 120,000 years. And we pay our respects to all Indigenous elders, past, present, and those who are emerging. And we celebrate our Indigenous sisters in business. For those of you who are new to BWA, you might not have heard about us before. We've been around for quite some time now. We've been, I think, nearly 8-9 years since we were conceptualised as a national group that grew out of being a local West Australian women in business group, but we're really got a great footprint all around Australia that we've been forging with female leaders to be the #1 national collaborative community in Australia. So we really focus on raising the profile of women and sharing our knowledge and our expertise, building an influential network and creating opportunities for women. So everything we do is really around co-design with women and co-creating our program each year. So every year looks, a little bit different than the year before, depending on who's stepping up as leaders in our community and working with us on our strategies and initiatives. We're not just women who own businesses, though many of us are, but we're also executives, managers, directors, women on boards. We're also leaders and those emerging leaders. We've got quite a few women that are a part of our wider community who are studying business and really looking to develop areas within their own lives in terms of leadership development, business improvement, personal and professional growth. Looking at how to develop strategies of greater influence and profile, stepping into, our greatness and our wisdom, and of course, connections and connecting with each other nationally, across states, across professions and across industries is really important. Our values we spent quite a lot of time developing when we first set up as a national brand, and we really are mindful of behaving according to these values. We're very welcoming to women from no matter where they are in their life and within their business career. And we're also very mindful of the fact that we like to really step into our courage and try new things. We're an experimental brand. So when quite a few of our leaders will come up with ideas, and we don't always know how well they're going to go, but we'll generally try and give it a go and throw our resources behind it. Connections and friendships, I think, are one of the most important things, certainly for me. And during these really trialing, challenging times particularly over the last 18 months, 2 years, I've found that it's the friendships that I've forged across the states with women who really hold space with me and for me, and are able to help me stay positive and keep going. And, when things don't work out, to help me dust off the hurt and just keep focused on something, the future, and learning from what we're trialing and how we're doing things. So there's lots of benefits of being a member. We're not chasing memberships, but we love it when people do come on as a financial member, because that does help us obviously pay our contractors and our team in order to keep these things going and promote them. That takes a lot of effort in promoting and raising the profile of women and making sure that we get the reach that we can to get the conversations going that are going to make change. Big thank you to Torrens University. They've been a wonderful supporter of Business Women Australia for a couple of years now. All these courses that you see here are short, do-it-yourself, evidence-based, the latest in research and thinking. They're all for free for our members. So just by becoming a Classic member, you get access to all these online courses for free. Torrens have been a wonderful partner. We've given out multiple scholarships for women who want to progress their qualifications, university qualifications. Kylie Clark and Irene Stanley are both recipients of 100% scholarships for MBA programs that they're well and truly in. And we've given out many scholarships for women across all sorts of categories of business and education. So we're also an accredited disc flow training provider as a part of our relationship with the wonderful Jessica Schubert, who is our head of leadership development. So anyone who's a coach or who's in a management position or HR or as a general leader, if you're interested in behaviour and emotional intelligence and how that may impact and better understand and better create understanding, disc flow is what people would have known as DISC before, but it's like DISC on steroids that brings the emotional intelligence piece in. If you've got any questions about that, Lauree is actually a qualified accredited disc flow trainer, and she'll be able to answer those questions, I'm sure, if you reach out to her. We're also offering an accredited coach course. I'm actually almost at the end of my Cert 4 on this. I've had a long and wonderful career in executive roles and general management and C-level roles. I wish I had done this course years ago. This has been a 6-month intensive course. It's got a lot of practical coaching. I've got a couple of fellow students on here, Kathy Smith from Catco Enterprises, who's also a sponsor of BWA. And I've also got Lisa Target on here, who are part of our course. And if you're interested in what this course is like, have a chat to those ladies. I think they're getting as much out of it as I am. Business Foundations course is for women who are setting up their own business and really need a hand in terms of identifying what kind of go-to-market packages that they're offering. This is designed and run by Anne-Marie Cross, who's an amazing business coach. She is also offering this in as a great subsidy for Businesswomen Australia members, because she's our podcasting queen. And when she was planning podcasts with our premium level members, so many of them didn't really have a very clear go-to-market, you know, what their good offering and what their better offering is, what their top of the range offering might be. She calls it the good, better, best. And this is a really well-priced, great course that will help you if you're at that stage, early stage of your business development. If you're out as a coach or as a consultant, or as a thought leader that's maybe, or an executive with a side hustle. These are our social media channels. They're busy. They're growing all the time. We have a company page on LinkedIn. We have a group page. It's free to join that group for any Australian woman in business or executive. So make sure you join the LinkedIn group. On our website there, we have our events page. We have a very good and active following on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and there are hashtag handles. So if you are doing any posts or if you want us to see anything that's going on, use these hashtags and we will be able to see what's going on in your world too. Thank you to Kathy, who's online here today. Kathy and Catco Enterprises, that team work really hard in the background. Every new initiative we have requires a landing page, changes to our website. This digital team are brilliant. If you're looking at getting a website created, make sure you get Kathy and her team to quote for you. And they also look after our all our posts across our various digital media channels. Solo accounts, Donna Vincent is an absolute guru. She was one of the first fintech entrepreneurs and developed an app purely for sole traders. Any of you who have a side hustle business or a fully fledged business, I've been using that in my management consulting practice. It's amazing. It's an app that helps me work out my quarterly BAS. It's phenomenal, and it keeps all my records in a secure place. It's got a little vault like a store. And it works out, it's cut down the cost of my accounting fees by heaps because I just give them access to my solo accounts. Torrens Uni, Hawkins Marketing, Intact Teams, that's Jessica Schubert's crew, Anne-Marie Cross, our podcast queen, our Fire Up coaching with Kathy McKenzie, and of course 3 Drops. Wines are our favourite drop of wine. They're a great southern producer. They also produce olive oils. And we cannot wait to get around to the other states and do more wine tastings. Jo Bradbury is an absolute superstar when it comes to gorgeous events like that, and tells her story as a businesswoman and how she's coped with really some major changes to wine exporting, particularly in relation to the tariffs in China. It's been quite hard on our agricultural exporters. And particularly the wine industry. Inspiration Source, the wonderful Vita Carlino. We're planning a retreat. It may be the end of 2022, but we'd love to get all you amazing female leaders across industries and states to come together for a retreat for women. Let's hold on to that as an idea. If you are interested in becoming a financial member, like I said, there's absolutely no pressure to join as a financial member, but we do value this financial support. There's various levels to choose from. If you want to have a chat to me about what level you'd want to come in at, then please do. And there's details on the website. There's so much information when you click onto each of those links, but it's lynn@businesswomenaustralia.com.au. I can send you my Calendly link, have a chat, look at where you're at, look at how we can co-create or co-design something, or just talk to you about what's going on in your business. So I'm a great sounding board, and I've got big shoulders. I've heard some really challenging stories over the last 12 months, but we're all in this together, and that's how we support each other. Our next online event will probably be not until early next year. We've got lots of stuff coming up. We've got our Melbourne Business Leadership Lunch on the 3rd of December. On the 16th of December, our Sydney community are all coming together. Sorry, Brisbane ladies, we haven't been able to get anything up and running in person, but we will kick off Back to Business in Brisbane early next year. And in the regions, there's various events going on. So keep an eye on our calendar. If you are not already subscribed to e-news, please do. On our website, you can subscribe to our newsletter. That's the really only definite way that you can keep in the loop. Sometimes we get around to getting everyone up to date through LinkedIn, but it depends on our resources, depends on how much money we can pay our contractors. So what I might do is I think what we will do is get straight into our session with Lauree. Lauree is such a beautiful soul and such a generous, spirited executive. She's got a very impressive background in business development, and particularly in the agribusiness space, which she's really stepped into her power since becoming a certified life coach. She's also a certified in the disc flow training. When she came up with the imposter syndrome topic, I was like, what a classic topic, because it really is one that I speak to a lot of my own clients about. And I can remember one of my male clients, he's a managing partner of a really, really successful law firm. And he said, don't you girls think this is just your deal? He said, I sometimes feel it too when I walk into into a boardroom event, and he thinks, oh my God, what am I doing here? I hope they don't all work out that I'm, kind of winging it. And I just was amazed when he told me that. And I thought, this is such a phenomenon, and it really does require people and engage them to I think, really look at, where we're at and how we can overcome this. So actually, just before I shoot to Lauree, I'd just like to hear if I've got a couple of guests on today, Emily and Cherie Gregory. Emily Begans and Cherie are doing some research. Emily, do you want to quickly just tell us a little bit about your research in case we lose people towards the end of the webinar?
Oh, hi, Lynn. I'm just hoping everyone can hear me. My name's Dr. Cherie Gregory, and Emily couldn't be here this afternoon. So thanks so much for just letting me drop in before Lauree begins talking. Yeah, I'm doing some research. I'm at Western Sydney University. I'm doing some research looking at how do women think about investment and finance and then set out to invest in their own business and future, and how they've navigated COVID-19 in terms of financial resilience and well-being. So I'm doing interviews just in terms of on Zoom or on telephone, and I'd love to be able to speak to any female business owners, entrepreneurs who might be interested in sharing their experiences. As a researcher, I don't have any agenda other than to think about the types of strategies that should be designed in order to support women entrepreneurs and women business owners. So yeah, I'd love to hear from anyone. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my email address in the chat. If you want to find out a bit more, then please feel free to email me, and I can get in touch with anyone, everyone. But I'm just putting my email address in now. And yeah, I'm on Sydney time. So yeah, feel free to reach out on email, and yeah, I hope to hear from someone to yeah, get their experience and perspective. So yeah, things that I'm interested in is a lot of our information that we have about women in finance in Australia and across the world, there doesn't seem to be any difference that we can see in terms of women and men's financial literacy. There's nothing that men know more than women know. Men aren't better at financial and investment than women are. But I'm wondering, yeah, how do women think about, like, what are some of the things in terms of, you know, were these topics that were discussed as they were growing up around the family table, and yeah, what's their story in terms of how they set out to start their own business, and then also, yeah, navigating COVID-19 in the past year or more.
Fantastic, Cherie. So if we, I'd just like to encourage you ladies to reach out and hear more about the research and look at how you can get involved in that research. We at Business Women Australia, we do as much as we can to support academic evidence-based research. It certainly helps inform us in terms of what we do and what we're all about as well. So these types of research is really powerful, and coming from an academic environment without an agenda, without a commercial reason for doing it, just purely about knowledge, building our knowledge and understanding is a really, really important part of the future. So please, I encourage you all to reach out to Cherie. I hope you're staying on and participating in our conversation. We don't want to lose you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if there's any questions that any of you have of Cherie, I'm sure you can email her and follow that up. So over to you, Lauree. I think we are going to be engaged, we're going to be inspired, and we're going to be able to thrive as a result of this. So I am going to jump off here and stop this share.
Awesome, thank you. My goodness, there's so many of you, and you're all not Bridget, so that's good to see. so thanks for changing your name. Would the real Bridget Hawkins please stand up? All right, I'm just going to share my screen. Now, I haven't used a lot of this technology for a few years, so I'm hoping that I'm going to get this right. Can you see my head looking up to the sky, looking for answers? All right, let's just, I can't see you. That's all right. I'm going to trust that you're all there. Here we go. Right, now I can see you. That's good. I don't just get to see my own head. All right, so welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lauree Arnold. I'm a coffee lover. I'm a netball fanatic. I am an empty nester of 3 beautiful children, and I love fur babies. I live in Esperance, WA, with my bricklaying husband, Dave, who loves to make fun of my Kiwi accent, even though when I go home, apparently now I sound more Australian. I'm not sure about that. But today I wanted to cover this topic, like Lynn said, because I experienced it a lot, and I know a lot of my fellow coaches, my fellow entrepreneurs, business owners, friends suffer from it too. So over the last couple of years, leaving my corporate job to come to be an entrepreneur, it was a whole nother level of this stuff coming up for me. And I thought, what fantastic tools that I've got my access to now. Let's see what I uncover throughout my journey. So I want to give you a bit of a kind of set the scene around where it kind of started for me. So I was raised as an only child in Rotorua, New Zealand. My mum was single, dad left before I was born, and she came from a very large family. She was the eldest daughter of her siblings and had a lot of responsibility on her shoulders. With this large family, I can kind of see why she lived her life vicariously through me, because she'd lived this life that she hadn't really lived a life that she had quite, wanted, and it hadn't panned out for her. So she tried to live it through me, and money was extremely tight, like very poor family, and they just had to make do with what was available. But because of this and my childhood, she really ensured that even though the poverty cycle was still very similar, she always put me through ballet, she'd put me through modeling, through drama, tennis, piano. Like, she really did try to give me the best of everything that she never had. But she was also very heavy-handed, and not only did she set the expectation bar really, really high for me to achieve, because she always wanted me to be famous and rich and provide her with this wealthy future. There were a lot of events that kind of, I suppose, hampered me and made me unsure about myself, because I was what I felt like I was a failure in her eyes. And it pretty much became unbearable for me. And so along came this rebellious teenager. You might know someone similar. And I also think maybe it was some of those lunchtime hours spent with my nan watching Young and the Restless, where I conjured up these ideas of how life should really look. But at 16 years old, I left home and I left school, and with no qualifications, and I was then pregnant at 16. And alongside of that, I was, as a part Māori, is living in a non-speaking Māori household with very little to do with the culture. The way Mum spoke to me about our culture was about me, my identity was a little bit like, you're a Pākehā with a teaspoon of Maori. So I kind of always had these identity issues, a lot of shame and guilt for much of my life. And that's kind of where this imposter really started showing up for me. So as you can see, I've been looking to the sky for answers too. Overcoming imposter syndrome. I'm going to throw the question out there. Or do you? Do you overcome it? And the reason why I say this is because, whether you call it a phenomenon, and like Lynn and I can tell you a funny little story at the end of this about that word, or you call it the syndrome, or you call it fraud complex. Whatever you call it, it messes with your confidence. We know that. You feel like you can't control it. You think you shouldn't be experiencing it. It stops you from going to the next level. And it keeps you in your comfort zone. Some days it feels like a heavy coat, or it feels like a burden that just won't go away, and it's really hard to shake. And it always feels like I'm never going to get out from underneath it. So what if I told you there was no way to overcome it completely? And I can hear all you type A's right now, all you high achievers, screaming, no! I can hear it from the inside out. I just know it. But before you start shaking your head, clicking the X button, hold up for a second. Let's just flip it on its head a little bit. Overcoming suggests that there is a problem to solve. And as a perfectionist, we need to deal with it. It needs to be something we can scratch off the list. We don't want to have to deal with again. Am I right? We want to gain control of it. We want to jump it. We want to bypass it. We just don't want to experience it. So in the chat box, who says, just write your little answer, who says in the chat box, you shouldn't be experiencing this? Lynn, you might have to read out some answers for me, because I've got all these, I've only got one screen, so I'm trying to do it all here. One word, who says you shouldn't be experiencing this? What you got, Lynn?
Well, we've got a lot of silence here, but the question, so what is it? What do you mean by who says? I mean, do we say? I don't think I get the question.
So we ask ourselves, like, the question is, well, actually the statement is, I shouldn't be experiencing this. Who says? Where does that voice come from?
So for me, if I can just sort of share with me, I grew up in a family where I'd come home and say, oh, you know, I got, 90%. And my dad would say, oh, why didn't you get 100? And I think he was thinking that was kind of like a good thing, but what it did for me was, it was like, only the people who get 100, like, you've got to get 100. Like, so whenever I don't know 100% of things, sometimes I feel that I've got an imposter. Like, I feel like maybe I should have all the answers. And then I'm like, but I would love to not feel like that.
You might always. I'm just going to float it out there. I'm not saying that it always goes away, but the answer to that, really, the who says you shouldn't, is simply you. Like, it's you telling yourself that I shouldn't be experiencing this.
Yeah, Michelle Denny just put in there, the little me, there is an expansive me and a small me. When I feel underneath, it's coming from the small me.
Yeah, and it's that small me that we know that as soon as she says, oh no, you shouldn't be, like, you shouldn't, it has to be like this, it should look like this. As soon as we start putting that kind of, we actually start, I suppose, creating our own expectation, our own bar of expectation for ourselves as well. The other question was,
Cynthia's asked, how do you define imposter syndrome?
I kind of go into a little bit more, but I like to, my new reframe on it, without spoiling it, but my new reframe on it is just self-doubt on steroids. Like, self-doubt on steroids, like, it's just so pumped up. And it just comes from years and years of, and I'm going to get to it, so just bear with me. It comes in the next couple of slides. So just put a pause on that answer for now. Just stay with me. All right. All right. So the next question, you don't want to experience it because it feels, how does it feel for everyone? Drop that in the chat box. I don't want to experience the imposter because it feels like, I've actually got goosebumps. If you could see me right now, I've got goosebumps.
Okay, so we've got words like limiting, icky, heavy, uncomfortable, like you're never good enough. It feels, it takes energy away from what I should be doing.
Yeah, you know, some of the words, one word, and like,
Insecure, unsafe.
I do like to drop a few bombs from time to time, but this one's not too bad. My first word that always comes up for me is, it just makes me feel really shitty. Makes me feel small, insignificant, like super self-conscious. Did we get an inadequate in there?
Yep, insurmountable, unsafe, insecure.
Yeah, it's brings up all sorts of awful feelings for us. And so then the third part to this, to dropping on its head, is that we also think that we shouldn't be experiencing it. And that's because, hey, like, you know what? I'm a smart person. I'm a savvy person. I should know how to deal with this. Like, as a perfectionist and, you know, wanting to get to the end very quickly, or type A, it's like, oh my God, how many times do I need to go through this? Just keep trying to move past it, get over it. So today what I want to do is I want to share with you the ways in which you can just interrupt the cycle. So, and I say interrupt because, so sorry, I've moved myself too far ahead. Here we go. So the reason why I say interrupt is because rather than to control it or resist it, we just want to put a pause on it so that we can see it for what it is when it shows up. So we can see what it is. So who's ready? Who is ready to put a pause on it? Hand up, anyone? Who's ready to show up differently? Who's ready to speak up? Who's ready to follow their heart? Who's ready to make life-changing decisions with ease? Like, who wants to get a promotion or start a business? Who wants to make more money? Like, this stuff, this imposter, this is what's keeping us. And honestly, there's nothing bad in the world that happens when more women make money. So my aim today is for you to leave with confidence back on the front foot, a deeper understanding of how your self-limiting beliefs are keeping you playing small, and show you some practical ways which I have discovered for myself around how to ease it and how to work with it rather than how to work against it. So anyone that's, I don't know, an old Zoomie, give me some jazz fingers for a hell yes. Yeah. Give me all the fingers. That's the one. Love it. All right. There's someone ready. Oh, hang on. I'll just admit this person. That's right. Okay. All right. So the first concept I want to share with you is that it is an inside job. And it's about controlling the controllable and understanding your own self-limiting beliefs. Now, I do agree that there is a lot of work still to do in the outside world. But what I've come to learn, especially once realizing I like to be in control, is that if we want to have an impact in the world, it really starts with you. When you make change for you, this helps you to expand that change to other people. And the more people that you help, of course, extends help to all humankind. So even today's session, if there's some little nugget or, gems that you get from it, expand that outside of yourself and share that with the people that you know, so that we can get more women, more men, like, our daughters, our nieces, our nephews, whatever, and help them really kind of to learn how to interrupt this cycle as well. So I always find that taking responsibility for how we can change from the inside out, and that's what I mean by it's an inside job. So right now you have a story about what imposter syndrome means to you and what it is and how it keeps you playing small. Lynn sent me a really good article just the other day saying, stop telling women they have imposter syndrome. And I think it's a fantastic message, and I certainly am in agreement with it. But I think the important key message to take from this is that we have to stop telling ourselves we have it and really see it and understand it for what it is. If you read the Buzz magazine this year, I wrote an article and I talk about defining the words to help put them in perspective, or, to at least put another lens over what someone else or what society has defined for us so that we can come up with our own label and our own definition. When you Google the word imposter, it says a person who pretends to be someone else in order to deceive others, especially for fraudulent gain. And even look up the word fraud. It says, wrongful, criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. It's got such a negative connotation to it. It's no wonder we walk around having shame and guilt about it, and we're constantly like running off to the hills. So my point really is, it's like we get to choose what we label it. We get to choose what we believe to be true about our past, and we get the choice to choose what we believe to be true about our present. So asking yourself, and how you do this is by asking yourself really good questions and getting to the core of what you truly believe about yourself. Am I an imposter to its fullest extent? Am I really in this for deception or for wrongful, am I wrongfully telling people these things? Am I in it for a fraudulent gain? Like, look at the perception of just those new words in a different context. And it kind of already, you can take a step back for them and go, no way, honey, that ain't me. I am not an imposter. And so I refuse to tell myself. So I know we've named it the imposter syndrome, but like, let's not stop talking about it. We can't avoid it, but at least we can label it like, you know what? Like I said, I've just got self-doubt and it's on steroids right now. For me, that really helped to diffuse that imposter. It helped me to really like kind of move from that negative connotation around having imposter syndrome as a terrible thing. So another question that I like to ask myself is, do I really believe this? Am I this person? Do I choose to be this imposter? And again, the words, who says? Who says I'm an imposter? Just that, you know, that little birdie or that little soundtrack that's going on in your mind right now. You might have heard a little bit about my story at the beginning where I say I was uneducated. I came from a poor family. My mother set too high expectations. I was rebellious. Like, there's a lot of fact in that. There's a lot of 100% fact from my past. But there is also a lot of the story I've made up along the way. And the same can be said about your now, your present. You know, there's 100% fact in your life, you know, your job, your husband, the money, your housing situation, all the circumstances of your life. And then there's some story as well. And there's a lot of story. And when we're talking in the context of imposter, which has been defined for us in the past, you know, what story are you telling yourself about you and about other people? And the reason why this matters is because of the next point, which I've already put up, is how much power we give to it. And what I mean by power is how much energy we give to believing things that just aren't true. Like, we give energy to this label. You know, I've got a fake Gucci label and an authentic Gucci label down there. We walk around like this Gucci label, but is it even, you know, is it even true? We give so much weight to this brand, to this, you know, external thing. In actual fact, we give it space to expand. So really, we create the imposter. We create the imposter. And we simply create it by what we think and how we feel about our past and about our present. So we're going to stay with that. It's an inside job for now. And here's how we do it. Here's how we figure out what we're thinking and how we're feeling. So T's stand for thoughts. I should have just written it, but this is my abbreviation. T's, thoughts. F, feelings. Is to know your triggers. Recognize what your thoughts and feelings are about those triggers. And then to know what we do or don't do because of this. So I know for me, every time I got a job, that was a level up. So when I went from an administration manager officer to a premium funding manager, you know, with an extra 20K pay rise, something that I'd secretly wanted to achieve, but doubted it because of who was I to have this. My instant thought was, I'll fluke this. I'm a total fraud. Like, this can't be real. I'm a fluke artist. So what I didn't do is that I wasn't actually basking in the achievement or the accomplishment, wasn't seeing the evidence for myself because I was too busy rushing past it, like trying to get away from this imposter. And I wasn't enjoying it. I was really being a puppet in that role for the people that I was working for. And I really wasn't showing up or being the leader that I could have been. But by the time I'd really noticed what the trigger was, I hadn't noticed what the thinking and feeling was. It kind of came after the fact where I had time to reflect on, oh, yeah, what was going on there? And I certainly didn't notice at the time how it was making me show up. So knowing ahead of time when it's going to show is part of interrupting it. So Lynn, I don't know if you can do this for me because I can't see that part of the page, but what I want us to do is I'd like us to jump into a couple of groups and just talk about for a couple of minutes, like what the situations you've been in or what your triggers are. And then maybe if you've got any assigning thoughts that just kind of pop up, and they might not go in that order, you know, one situation or an event or a place or a time. You might get the feeling first and then you might be able to work backwards. But if we can jump in and use my kind of example there where I talk about job promotion that was my situation, that was my trigger. And my thought was, this can't be real. And of course, my feeling for me was feeling like a fraud. But if you have any other feelings like we talked about at the beginning, like insecure or inadequate, make sure we talk about those ones too. So Lynn, maybe 3 or 4 minutes in each group, if that's okay. Yeah.
Totally. I'm going to put 3 people per room, and I'm going to open all those rooms up now. And so have a chat, share with each other, introduce yourselves quickly and then share with each other. And that way you can actually, if it's, you don't have to, so you can, if you just want to listen to the others, you can say, look, I don't feel comfortable to share, but I'm sure there'll be enough going on with the others. So I'm just going to open all those rooms now. Just going to close all those rooms now. Yes, I was sharing in my group how as a general manager, I was like 3 months in the role and I was still thinking like I might have ripped off the business owner because I was still thinking, how did I end up with this role coming from a marketing background? And then I realised I had to really focus on more of the finance and contracts and managing the team, getting out of the marketing people's space. Everyone's coming back in now.
How good was that? I love breakout rooms. I love meeting new people. I think it's wonderful. Now, can you still see my screen, Lynn?
Totally.
Excellent. Awesome.
Oh, hang on. No, I can't. You have to reshare.
Okay. All right.
Reshare.
Hang on, let me.
We lost a whole room of people, so I don't know what that
Did
means.
they go with Bridget, did they?
I don't know. We've got 13 left on the call, so.
Oh, no. All right. So can you see my screen now? So we're just going to take off. Here we go.
That's
awesome.
perfect.
All right. So some of the triggers. So just kind of give me a nod. So public speaking. Anyone else have that trigger? Performance reviews. I've had them in performance reviews. Anyone else nodding? Exams. Anyone else have an imposter when exams? Networking events. So funny, when I first started coaching and had to have Facebook Live, I used to tell my husband, oh, I'm going to go Facebook Live. Oh my God, what's going on? And of course, he's a bricklayer, so he's no idea. He can't even work his social media. And he was trying to tell me, what's wrong with doing Facebook Live? Like, no one's even there. You're talking to no one. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I couldn't possibly. And I was just having a meltdown. Is this bricklayer like coaching me into, it's all good. Like, what other places have we found it? Kathy in our group shared that she kind of got it when she had a degree, someone else had a degree, and she had 35 years of experience as a kind of an equivalent, I suppose. We also had just playing small, like from childhood, just being told that you got to play small. Does anyone else want to drop in anything different to that in the chat box? Lynn, you might have to just keep your eye on that one. For me, some of the other places that it would show up for me was with my identity issues and being part Māori is I would walk into a room filled with white females and freak out. In actual fact, I'd go running the other way. Whereas I actually worked in male-dominated industries, so being in a group full of men just didn't bother me. But that was part of mine. Lynn, anyone else in there?
Certainly in our group, we talked about, times when we were running workshops and new roles and what else have we got in the chat room? Going for a new job.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's lead with that, because I actually have used that example in the next slide. So I hear you, I see you, and I get you. All of the above are all relevant. So for a second, I want you to consider that imposter cycle is like the cycle in your washing machine. It's the washing machine is the brain, okay? So who else has a favorites button on the washing machine? Like quick wash or a 30-minute one? Yeah, me too. So you've got your little favorites button, okay? And that's like a bit like the brain does. It has this little habitual setting that it likes to think about when it comes to imposter syndrome. And it likes to do anything that's easy. That's the brain. It likes to do what's familiar, what's known. And it's like, why bother trying a new cycle when this one works perfectly? Like, we don't see any new value in it. There's no benefit in changing it up. And today, what I want you to consider is, I want you to consider that this the cycle there, the little square with the blue arrow in it, is the cycle name, favourites. And we're going to put job promotion in there. So job promotion is a circumstance. Okay, it's a situation that we're in. And then we have a basket of dirty laundry. Not saying that our thoughts are dirty, all right? I'm just saying, like, they're going to come out cleaner once we wash them. So we have a basket of thoughts. And these look like, I'm a fraud. I have no idea what I'm doing. I fluked it. I'm undeserving. They're going to figure it out. I'm not actually this smart, and I don't belong here. These are obviously just a few that I've heard from my own brain multiple times, and I absolutely guarantee that everyone else in this room is having them too. So, but what we, okay, so this part here, I'm just going to skip through this, but when we have a thought, what happens, like when we've got a situation, we have a thought about it, and that thought actually creates a feeling. The feeling drives us to take some action, and then the action ends up with a result. So just my screen's a little bit funny. So what I want to show you now is what happens next. And to change it, we have to interrupt it. So I'm going to stay with the inside job. We're going to call it the spin cycle, like on our washing machine. And this is your favorite cycle right now, the imposter cycle. But how I want to show you is the actual cycle. The actual spin cycle is a negative spin cycle, and it's a thought loop, and it's a loop that just keeps going round and round. So just like spin. So it's on our favorites, and it's going whirring around with all our dirty laundry, with all our dirty thoughts in it. And then, what happens? We have this thought and this feeling. We create all this action, like we don't show up. And then we create this result. And the result generally, if we're thinking that we're a fluke or we're a fraud, is we give ourselves evidence for, see, look, told you you were an imposter. You have no idea. What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here right now. And the more you keep doing that, the more it keeps spinning, the more it strengthens itself. So the next part, because if we keep putting the same stuff in, like the same washing in, the same dirty laundry in, the same stuff's going to come out. And the way in which I have chosen to purge what's in there, so to kind of clean up what's in there, is to clean up my thinking. How I do that is by journaling regularly. Before an event, before I go into a job interview, before I go on live, before I go coaching, before I turned up today. And I had to ask myself some really great questions. I had to get curious around, why was this showing up for me? Do I believe this? Is this true? How might this not be true? So it's like, you've got two sides of the equation, give weight to both sides. How is this true? And how might this not be true? And am I willing to be wrong about this? Am I willing to be wrong that I have imposter syndrome? Am I willing to be wrong that I've fluked this? Am I willing to be wrong that I don't belong here? Because what is the upside to telling myself this? So, it kind of sounds like I'm having a conversation with a third party here. But that's that little voice inside my head that's going, meh, 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 meh. Spinning on all these thoughts where it's like, let's interrupt it for a second. Let's ask some great questions. Another really important part of purging, what's in there is to forgive. And it's a big part of my process that I've used because, like I talked about in the beginning, I have come from kind of a little bit of a traumatic childhood. And so my nervous system feels like it's always in the survival mode. And I've thought for so many years that I'm a failure, that I shouldn't be in these places, that I don't belong. now it's like time where it's like, hand on my heart is giving myself the gift of compassion and kindness, and telling myself something new, like, I forgive myself for giving into the misbelief that I am a fraud. Like, remember that label at the beginning, how I talked about, I'm deceiving and I'm deceptive, I'm in this for fraudulent, gain. I forgive myself for giving into the misbelief that I think I'm deceiving people. I forgive myself for giving into the misbelief that I shouldn't be here, that I'm not good enough. Because right now, what you're believing to be true about yourself in this label is causing you to spin. So the second part of this is, rather than spinning on that cycle, is dropping into the joy cycle. And the joy cycle is simply what you desire is what brings you joy. So when you think about imposter syndrome and what you're trying to achieve, whether it's that new job or, a new client or a new business opportunity, is the desire for what brings you joy will help you to override your current place, the current place where you're at, where you're spinning. Because the circumstance or the situation never changes. It won't change. So what does have to change? And it's simply our thoughts, because our thoughts create things. I like to use the analogy of a baby. When you're trying to have a baby, of course, action does create things too, but it starts way before that. Like the physical nature of action to get your baby, of course, but it comes from, you have this feeling of love, or you have this feeling of connection, and that feeling is created because you think, you know what, I think it'd be a great idea to have this amazing, beautiful human being because I love my husband so much, or, because I want to adopt, or because whatever it is. But it's created from a single thought. And so when we know we can create joy in our life from some thoughts, it's like, oh yeah, why can't I create joy in other parts of my life as well? And the big one here for me was honoring myself, honoring my commitment to believing that I did belong in these places, that I do belong in these places, honoring myself in terms of not giving myself the label, and actually really believing in myself. And what I want to do now is I just want to show you what the cycle is, because what separates the two, what separates a spin cycle and a joy cycle, are your thoughts, because they are all optional. And sometimes it just takes a little while for us to eventually get out of that spin cycle. And this is obviously what this workshop is about, or this webinar is about, is the interrupting. Because thoughts are optional. And how do we know that? Because imagine if Oprah was here today, what would she have to think about imposter syndrome? What is someone that doesn't have imposter syndrome thinking? We know today we've all got different thoughts around what imposter syndrome means for us. So when we know that our thoughts are just thoughts, they're not actually truth. Like, let that one sink in for a second. Your thoughts are thoughts. They are not truth. And beliefs are thoughts. Thoughts are words. Words make sentences. And sentences make stories. So I know you type A's want to get to the end of this real quick. Sorry, I'm just going to jump back in there. But joy is available to you if you slow down long enough to see that the evidence is actually right in front of you. Who you are now, what you have accomplished, celebrating all your wins, listing your skills, listing your abilities, honoring your uniqueness, hand on heart, versus beating yourself up, like punching in your own face with your own thoughts and your own beliefs, because that's not going to get you there any quicker. So rather than trying to bypass this imposter and trying to jump over it, like scuttling to the end of it, just being in it and slowing down for a second to notice what your thoughts are, we talked about, Therese, we talked about in ours was, the awareness of what those thoughts are, what is creating it. We'd like to think it's the job promotion that's creating it, but the reality is it's not. The job promotion is the job promotion. I think job promotions are wonderful. Someone else thinks, oh, this is the worst thing ever. So that's how we know that we have different perspectives over a circumstance. And that's the best thing, because when thoughts are optional, you can choose anything you like. So my third concept that I want to share, but just lastly as we finish up, because I think I'm running actually okay on time. All right, is if nobody cared, I would. My number one go-to for interrupting the imposter cycle is by simply improving self-confidence and improving your self-concept. So the self-concept is simply what you think about yourself. And when you think about what you want for your future, for your job, for your business, excuse me, the question to ask yourself really is, what am I afraid of? And why am I afraid of it? I've just jumped, my little slides have jumped. So what I want to talk about is failing fast and failing forward. Two things type A's, they like the fast part, but they don't like the having to fail part. I was talking to one of my young 20-year-old clients the other day. University, she's failed her last semester. Now she's like, ugh, I've got to do it all over again. I'm like, you know what, girlfriend, we're going to figure out how to fail. We're going to fail on purpose. She just looked at me like, what is going on? Why do we need to fail? Let's get to that soon. Next part is quantum action. And we think quantum means huge, but in actual fact, it isn't. It's quite the opposite. And then the third part of it is rewriting the story. So we've created a story from our past and our present. Great news is that the future is in front of us and we can write anything we like, just like we can think anything we like. So, like I said, the two questions, what am I afraid of and why am I afraid? I love using this little meme that I found, was fear, false evidence appearing real. Oh gosh, sorry. My little mouse has gone silly. False evidence appearing real, because it's the primitive brain doing what the primitive brain needs to do to keep you safe. So here are the three practices that I use for interrupting fear. Fail fast and fail forward. I actually have, it's underneath all my little pretty pictures over here, I have a fail plan every quarter, 100 fails, everything that I could fail at. Because you know what is the point at failing in the future when I can just fail now and get it out of the way? Planning to fail, imagine that. It's like we plan to succeed, we don't plan to fail. Let's plan to fail. The brain loves a plan. So give it a plan around how to fail. And of course, it's going to want to not fail. So we just tell it that failing is actually okay. We all know that. We know that failing is a good thing, because from failure we learn things. From failure is the reason why we have success. Failure is a necessary part of our evolution. The second part to failing fast is self-evaluating. The process I use is what worked, what didn't work, and what can I do differently. And I noticed that when I do that process, it helps me to sink into the now and to actually look at the things that I've done as glass half full versus glass half empty. So I look at all the accomplishments that I have achieved. That really helps my imposter to kind of interrupt. The next one that I love looking at is quantum action, which sounds like big things, but really it's just small 1%ers along the way. I was in a coaching call the other day and someone said, oh, I've got all these things to do. And the coach said, you know what? How many things are on that list? She's like, I don't know, like 50. She said, well, what if you just did one thing a day? And I thought, curious. You mean I don't have to do all those things today? If you just did one thing every day, that would actually get you, give you more success, create more failure, versus trying to do everything all at once. As a high achiever, I know you want to, but the whole idea of this is slowing. So quantum action is small, significant steps that lead to quantum result. And part of that is choosing what action you will take so that when it arrives, the action is planning the action, planning for failure, planning for your obstacles, because when it does arrive, and it will, you're ready for it. So that whole uncertainty, we're like, oh, what's going to happen next? Like, kind of remove a lot of that, and you go, you know what, I was expecting this. Great, I've got a plan B, or I know I've already made strategic plans to use this in my business. The next one that I love to use, and I did one for today, is energetic blueprints. I'm not sure whether you can see that, but it's just handwritten, and there's a big heart in the middle, and it says I am, and at the top is my workshop, which is overcoming imposter. I do this for everything. I do it for creating clients. I do it for when I have to do, one-to-one workshops. I do it for, what else? I've done them for everything. I have so many blueprints, it's not funny. But energetic blueprints really help me to remind me in the moment, like remind me while I'm doing them. But just before you show up is like, you know what, like I'll read you some of mine. I'm happy to do that. Is I am giving so much value. I am speaking my truth. I am stepping into my zone of genius. I am excited to deliver this. And I wrote this like 5 days ago, 6 days ago, and it really helped me to set up the energy that I wanted to bring to this workshop, and of course to tell my little fearful brain, the one that's going, oh, what are we doing? And it really helped me to remind myself, like my future self decided this was a great idea to ring Lynn and say, hey, should we do this workshop? And it's the person that's trying to play small that's like, ugh, let's cancel. It's like, let's not do this. So having an energetic blueprint really helps to set up the energy that I want to create, so that it like stamps down that little imposter. I heard this awesome quote in I can't remember where it was, but I remember who it was. She said, your insecurities are not worth making people wait on you. So it's a lady by the name of Corinne Crabtree. She's an amazing coach with the Life Coach School, also has her own business, helps people to lose like 100 pounds. I think this is a fascinating quote, and I think, us women, we have way too many valuable things to give the world. And so this one rings true for me, and I hope it rings true for you too. Your insecurities are not worth making people wait on you. So get out there, lean into the discomfort. I really find leaning into discomfort now, like just if you're a type A and you want to get there fast, that's the way to do it. Swim through the river of misery right now. Do all that stuff, because when you pop out the other end, it's so interesting. You think there is better than here, but the reality is, Kathy, when she got her degree, her piece of paper, she thought that being there with the piece of paper was going to be amazing, like this, beam of like starlight was going to come down and but in actual fact, it's like, oh yeah, I've got a piece of paper. So what's next? So, don't wait to there to shine your magic, like to shine your unique value in the world. A good question or a good thing to do is go to the worst place. So what if you fail? So what, like today, like, so what if no one turns up? So what if no one takes anything away from this? So what if no one really gets me? Like, so what if I say too many ums? That's the worst thing that could happen. Imagine all the things that are going to happen, like back from there. That takes so much more pressure off this high achiever who wants to make sure that this is perfect. Take the pressure off. Today's webinar, Lynn, you might, maybe you'd like to, I'll tell us through, but I got a message on Monday from LinkedIn from oh gosh, I can't remember her name. Clance is her last name. The actual one of the Lynn, can you jump in here, please? Give me a hand. There you go.
Professor Clancy, who is one of her research assistants, reached out and said, by the way, you're using the word imposter syndrome and attributing it to this body of research, and that's incorrect. It's actually imposter phenomenon, and we're trying to stamp out everything on social media and in the world that's like using this incorrectly in relation to this early body of research. And what was your reaction, Lauree?
Do you know what? Monday, I'm like, oh, we need to cancel it now. I need to run.
And what was my reaction?
Oh, well, I was actually, so this is where you get really aware of it, is I felt it straight away, like my whole heart just just dropped into my stomach. And I just sat with it and I thought, you know what, like, why am I feeling like everything's just fallen into a big heap? And when I recognized the thought is, oh my God, she's an expert at this. Like, I have no freaking idea what I'm talking about. Like, oh, that fraud really like shone for me. And so I sat on it for a few days and I thought, you know what, that's really interesting. I've journaled a lot. My little energetic blueprint did that. You know what, I am giving value. I'm speaking my truth. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. If this is going to help someone, I'd really help that just kind of put me into a way more grounded space, way more calmer place. And I emailed Lynn and said, FYI. What was your response, Lynn?
Well, I mean, coming from an academic background, I understand, you know, how precious we are about our research. And I thought it would have been nice for them to actually jump on and participate in the conversation, which would have been even more powerful. Because what I'm really was excited about, Lauree, was when you were prepared to share your own journey. And what we want in courageous conversations is women coming together and acknowledging our truth and our realities. And I was intrigued that for researchers that had studied imposter phenomenon, as they call it, which has now been coined since then, syndromes and various other names, that I was interested in what the intent of the research was, and maybe kind of along those years getting worried about what people are saying and the labels they're using, rather than recognising, you know, what the intent of having conversations like this is about. Lauree, what a beautiful, open and honest sharing of your experiences. Absolutely amazing. Anyone who wants to connect with Lauree or recommend Lauree, she's actually on her pathway of being a leadership coach. She's an absolute powerhouse and she's a wonderful, wonderful leader in our business women community. So, Lauree, big clap, thank you very much.